Alright, welcome back, friends. How do you feel about sushi now? Do you have a newfound and much deeper understanding and respect for this very seemingly straightforward and simple cuisine, but take it to elevated heights of art by the likes of the specialists depicted in this film? And that's the first point I want you to think about when you watch this film. Whether you hated it or not, that's cool. For some of you that probably didn't like it, you're thinking, well, I'm just not a foodie. I don't care that much about food. But dig this. To me, it's not really so much about the food as a kind of Eastern phenomenon we don't have so much here in the West, which is these are artisans, all right, doing honestly, kind of a menial job, a simple job, massaging an octopus. How hard can it be? Doing it for 12 hours to perfection, that's elevating it to a craft. And in Japanese, and I believe Asian culture in general, they have much more respect for people who dedicate their lives to doing something better than anyone else, including massaging an octopus. And that's why you have Jiro, a guy who owns a restaurant that seats 10 people in a subway station, who's gotten Michelin stars. That's fine. That's a Western thing. But he's also been awarded every single award you can get by the Japanese government. He's kind of a rock star. And so in the West, rock stars are just that. They're rock stars. They're Hollywood celebrities and they're politicians. Those are famous people. And everybody else are just, blue-collar scrub workers. In the East, and particularly as depicted in this film, these guys are specialists. They're high-end artisans that get respect, and they respect each other. It's just a different culture. Maybe we should take a few cues from that, by the way. But let me get to wrapping up a few things about sushi itself and some other themes of this movie. As I started the story before you watch the film, sushi started in Edo, aka Tokyo, 1840s, 1850s, 1860s, as that city was becoming a major metropolitan area and a world city of highest caliber. And sushi started with street vendors who were experimenting with, this vinegared rice to substitute for the fermented stuff and little pieces of fish. Really, again, kind of fast food, not elevated to any high art right when it started. And it became popular all across Japan, became a component, a recognized component of Japanese culture for the last 100 to 200 years. But it took a while longer to get outside of the four main islands of this sovereign state we call Japan. Actually took another century before it started popping up anywhere in the United States. And it started popping up, and I love this. This is all geography. It's all geography and globalization. Started popping up in Japanese neighborhoods of Los Angeles in the 1950s. That's not that long ago. And again, in very small pockets, LA, another major metropolitan area with millions and millions of people, and in Japanese neighborhoods, people who are migrating to the United States said, hey, well, I like sushi. I'm going to make sushi. I'm a sushi chef. I'm going to start a sushi place in LA in the 1950s. And then, of course, as most cultural phenomena, things that start in big cities jump to other big cities and then eventually trickle down to medium-sized cities and then trickle down to small cities and then trickle down to towns. And so started in LA in the 1950s, spread from all across the West Coast in major metropolitan areas, jumped to New York City by the 1970s. That's still not that long ago. I know you guys think that that's forever ago, but it's not for me. I was alive then. I mean, when I was a kid, there wasn't no sushi around here. No one even know what that term meant. Of course, now sushi is prolific everywhere. Even in Blacksburg, Virginia, there's 1, 2, 3 different places you get sushi. You get sushi at the grocery store. That's how much this has changed in just the last 30 to 40 years. That's a huge cultural shift, a global cultural shift just in a few decades. And now not only can you get this item anywhere in America, anywhere in Europe, really anywhere in the world, especially big cities, you can now go to restaurants that specialize in just one component of sushi. They just do this. They just do maki. They just do nori. They just do that. So it's also been elevated up to the highest of the highest where, yes, you can go to New York and pay $500 for a sushi meal. Or you can go in the corner store owned by a Japanese immigrant and get it for $5. That's running the full gamut of what this food can do, what this Japanese cultural cuisine has done all over planet Earth. From the most accessible, cheapest stuff all over the place to the heights of foodie culture. And as depicted in the film, this is in a Tokyo subway station. And despite its humble appearance, it's the first restaurant of its kind to be awarded the 3-star Michelin Guide rating. I believe it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago that it started to get super famous because everybody was like, that's the first time that Michelin rated truly like a hole in the wall. Most of the other restaurants that Michelin rates are French restaurant, European restaurants that everybody knows cost $500 to go sit down and eat. So this was a departure, and it started to trend into paying more attention to quality as opposed to the pomp and circumstance of the restaurant. This place is so famous. Every Japanese prime minister and president, probably for a few decades, has eaten at this place. And indeed, United States President Barack Obama was there with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in April 28th of 2014, so just a year ago. Shinzo took Obama in to Jiro's to have a meal. You can go look it up. And Obama said it was the best sushi he ever had in his life, because what else is he going to say? Anyway, please keep in mind, sushi is prolific in Tokyo, all over the place. They just showed one famous restaurant. There's probably a million others, okay? And there's a bunch of super famous other sushi restaurants. There's hundreds of thousands of more of simple little sushi shops all over the place. Jiro represents but one school of thought when it comes to preparation style and ingredients and presentation. There are other schools of thought. It's almost like martial arts. You know, there's karate and there's judo and there's this and there's that. In Asian society, it's just not this one thing. You think of it as, oh, it's karate. No. There's 1,000 different sub-branches. And you think of it as sushi. Jiro does one type, one very specific type. There are others who have really famous restaurants who do things differently. And again, the sushi bars in Tokyo alone likely number in the tens of thousands. Huge variety of what you can get under this banner of fish and rice paired together. Every type of experimentation you can think of, every aspect is going on now in both in Tokyo, but now you can go to New York City and go to LA and find folks doing all sorts of crazy things with sushi everywhere. And again, that's why it's such an interesting topic, because this was an unknown phenomena to virtually all of the world 40 years ago. And now it's everywhere, and it's being experimented with everywhere. And it's great, cheap or expensive, and this, that. It's kind of a big deal. So that brings us back to one of the fascinating components of Japanese culture in general, I think, which is that passionate drive for perfection, that meticulous attention to microscopic detail, which manifests itself in virtually all things Japanese, be it art, architecture, writing, calligraphy, floral arrangement, rock gardens, manga, automobiles, technology, electronics. I mean, perfection. Everyone is always striving for perfection, and even with octopus. It's just kind of a fascinating thing. Did you note, by the way, how Jiro elevated the whole restaurant and the whole meal into a performance in and of itself? You notice how everybody was talking about it? It's like, he's really quiet. He just looks at you. He just gives it to you. You don't order. It just does this. And it's all paced and patterned. It's almost like a ballet. He orchestrates the meal, balancing flavors and textures between dishes, truly into a kind of an epic art form. And did you also notice, I think maybe it's an Asian thing, maybe it's just a Japanese thing, I don't know. But when the Japanese eat sushi, particularly in places like this, they don't talk. And they even said that, don't talk, eat. They said, children, don't talk, you eat. You pay attention to the flavors of what's going on here. Japanese restaurants focus on one thing of high refinement, and consumers are expected to pay attention and appreciate that. Whereas American restaurants experiment more and have a wide variety of things. It's a buffet. There's everything under the sun. You can order anything you want to off the menu, and you sit around and you have a good time and you party and you drink 20 bottles of sake while you're eating your meal. Honestly, I respect both attitudes when it comes to dining and eating. I'm more the latter myself. But it is a difference, a difference that was hopefully detected by you. By the way, I should also add this into the performance, the choreography of the meal. Did you also notice that the film, whenever it was showing sushi and placing down, all these dishes, and of course labeling each one, so I do expect you to know the Japanese word for octopus and sea urchin. No, I don't. But as they were placing dishes down, and it was just so smooth and so beautifully filmed and choreographed, but they were playing Western music. Did you pick up on? They're playing classical Western music while showing this other Eastern art form, if you want to consider sushi elevated this high as an art form. I thought that was a nice contrast, a nice balance, a nice little yin and yang. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a little Zen action going on there. But that's probably also due to the fact that the topic was all Japanese, the people all in it were Japanese, the craft is Japanese, the cuisine is Japanese, but the filmmaker himself, I believe, is an American. Food for thought. I see what I did there? Food for thought. Anyway, other themes that I hope you considered and mulled over and picked up on is human environmental issues that are now pretty important on planet Earth because of the success of sushi. Think about it. It was not a global phenomenon 50 years ago. Now it is. Everybody wants sushi. And what's the best ingredient of a sushi? Everybody wants tuna. So you're having massive tuna depletions all over planet Earth. And yes, the success of the globalization of sushi is a major component of why that is. Jiro himself referenced we may be seeing the end days of sushi because we're overfishing and overdoing it. And everybody wants it. And it's really popular. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of sad. So by all means, hurry up and go eat it before it's all gone. We have the Japanese cultural issues that I pointed out, family relationships, traditional family values, where the eldest son is expected to take over for dad. So he's a 50-year-old man who's just done this his whole life, and he has to do it, and he's kind of expected to do it. I don't know how many of you would do that. Japanese cultural issues like work ethic are, again, pretty significantly different from Western tradition, paired with the attitudes that you're supposed to do, or you should do what your family wants, and you might specialize in just be massaging an octopus for 12 hours a day for 20 years. People do it there, or at least the older generations do it, and it's a respectable and honorable thing to do. I dare say not that many people in America would do it. I don't think, or Europe. That attitude is lost in the West now. It's still being maintained in the East, but they even referred to that, how the younger generations don't want to work as hard, don't have that admiration to attention to detail. So even in Japan, you could be seeing a cultural shift towards a more, I don't know, homogenized global culture where young people want to do what they want to do and not do what the family wants them to do, and certainly not toast seaweed for 12 hours a day for 30 years. So you could be on a kind of a cultural hinge even in Japan where things are starting to change. Again, thinking about sushi itself, it's a local phenomenon that's become a global phenomenon, a local culture that's become a global culture, and all the impacts that went on with that. It's Eastern food tradition, the highest rated value. It's so awesome. And a couple of the fundamental things that I think you should probably walk away with from this film. The filmmaker himself, I believe his name is David Gelb, says, and I quote, "I want to dispel the myth that sushi is simply fish and rice. Sushi is just as complex, if not more so, than any other style of cuisine. It takes 10 years of training to get a grasp just on the basic fundamentals of making good sushi. This film sheds light on why that is." That's from the filmmaker. And I'm like, yes, it's not just one simple little thing called sushi. He goes on to say, the main thing I learned from making this documentary is the value of hard work and improving your skills. You have to set aside your aspirations of fame and fortune and just focus on the work. There's no such thing as overnight success. You have to just keep working day after day after day and not be afraid to honestly judge yourself and be willing to throw it all away and start over again just to do it slightly better. Talent is important, but without hard work, talent is meaningless. Words to live by, friends. Words to live by. And in fact, I'll close this conclusion on Jiro Dreams of Sushi with this from Jiro himself. Jiro's wise words. Quote, once you decide on an occupation, you must immerse yourself in your work. You have to fall in love with your work. Never complain about your work. You must dedicate your life to mastering your skill. That is the secret of success and is the key to being regarded honorably. Wow. All that from massaging an octopus. All right. Hope you enjoyed the movie. But for now, party on, sushi style.